The reality about riches. It's all psychological warfare. There's an invisible battle raging every moment, not on battlegrounds, not in combat zones, but within the consciousness of those bold enough to aspire. It's a clash between restriction and freedom, between the conditioning of lack and the psychology of abundance. And you are the arena. Because before riches ever manifest in your reality, before the vehicles, the properties, the portfolios, the recognition, it first emerges as a voice in the consciousness, a spark of conviction, a choice. Society will convince you that riches are about chance, birthright, or situation. But those who've constructed kingdoms from nothing, they understand the reality. It's entirely psychological warfare. Andrew Carnegie understood it when he walked barefoot through the smoky foundries of Pittsburgh. Henry Ford understood it when he imagined a car in every garage, while others mocked from their horse-drawn buggies. Thomas Edison understood it when society called him insane for failing 10,000 attempts. They all grasped something most never comprehend. You must achieve mental prosperity long before you achieve material prosperity. Because riches are not currency. Riches are not precious metals. Riches are not position. Riches are a vibration, and your consciousness is either synchronized with it or disconnected from it. And the distinction is conviction. The consciousness is the supreme force that creates and constructs your existence. And every idea you permit to dwell permanently in your head becomes a foundation stone in the structure you're constructing, the structure of your fate. If you contemplate limitations, you exist in limitations. If you contemplate terror, you exist in bondage. But if you contemplate prosperity, if you inhale it, visualize it, declare it, carry it with you, your existence must comply. Not through sorcery, but through synchronization. Most individuals are living paradoxes. They claim they desire achievement, but their patterns honor defeat. They discuss riches, but they embody shortage. They fantasize about liberation, but they worship security like a deity. They anticipate a signal, a revelation, a guide, an opportunity. But the sole thing they truly require is a transformation, a dramatic, permanent transformation in their own mentality. That's the starting point. That's where it must start. See, your consciousness is like fertile ground, and your prevailing ideas are the planted seeds. Sow negativity, harvest negativity, sow excellence. And with patience, determination, and nurturing, you'll flourish. You'll cultivate a garden that nourishes future generations. But nobody will do the sowing for you. That's your responsibility. That's the cost of participation. And you cannot compete to succeed if you're still competing to belong. Let that resonate. Because riches don't gravitate to those who blend in. They gravitate to those who shatter conventions, the mavericks, the chance takers, the irrational, the ones who confront circumstances directly and refuse to accept them as absolute. That's the psychology that creates fortunes. But don't mistake psychology for inspiration. This isn't about excitement. This isn't about rising at 5 a.m. and shouting declarations at your reflection like a lunatic. No, this concerns character. You don't receive what you desire. You receive what you embody. And until you reconstruct the character behind the ambition, the riches you pursue will always remain beyond grasp. If your self-concept is impoverished, your finances will mirror it. If you believe you're unworthy, the cosmos will concur. Every occasion you declare, "I cannot purchase that," your subconscious documents it as truth. Every occasion you think that's not meant for individuals like me, you establish an agreement with scarcity. You transform into your convictions. That's not a platitude, that's brain science. Your subconscious consciousness cannot distinguish between fantasy and actuality. It simply absorbs what you provide it repeatedly until that becomes your standard. So if you desire to transform the situation, you must transform what you're providing your consciousness. You must become the designer of your internal reality because your external reality will always mirror it. Consider the legends. A researcher invested 25 years examining the most prosperous minds globally, and the finding was evident. Prosperity begins in the consciousness. Every millionaire was previously a dreamer. Every billionaire was previously told it's impossible. Every industry leader began not with resources, but with vision. And vision is strength. When you don't understand what you desire, the world will choose for you. It will provide you a blueprint. Attend school, secure employment, retire at 65, hope you possess sufficient to endure. But if you desire to prosper, if you desire to construct generational riches, you must discard the blueprint. You must create your own. You must become a visionary. Vision is not discretionary. Vision is life force. Without it, you suffocate in the ordinariness surrounding you. You wander, you browse, you consume, you squander years, pursuing nothing. But when your vision is evident, when it ignites within you like flame, diversions perish, uncertainties disappear, and discipline becomes natural. Vision provides suffering a meaning, it provides struggle an identity, and it makes every sacrifice valuable. Because you perceive the reward, you perceive the tomorrow, and you're prepared to become the individual it requires. But don't misunderstand. Vision without execution is fantasy. And this is where most individuals fail. They become infatuated with the concept of achievement, but decline to commit to the journey. They desire the throne without the ascent. They desire the banquet without the pursuit. But riches don't submit to desires. This responds to effort, strategic, concentrated, relentless effort. So you must awaken with purpose. You must proceed with tactics. You must become the type of individual who doesn't await opportunity, but generates it. Discipline is the connection between your vision and your actuality, and that connection is constructed daily. Allow others to delay. You arise. Allow others to speak. You implement. Allow others to protest. You adjust because while the world browses, you construct. While they pause, you choose. And choice, my friend, is everything. Choice is not an instant. It's not a quote on your wall or a note in your diary. It's a lifestyle. You don't make a choice once. You remake it every single day. When it's storming, when you're exhausted, when nobody trusts in you, when the figures don't appear correct, when the voice in your head says, perhaps this isn't meant for you. That's when the choice is examined. That's when the situation becomes serious. And most individuals surrender. They withdraw to security, back to the crowd, back to safety, where aspirations go to perish silently. But not you. Not if you comprehend what's truly in question here. Because riches aren't simply about currency. It's about liberation. It's about authority. It's about providing your offspring a life they don't need to heal from. It's about constructing something that survives you. Riches are purpose realized. But here's the challenge. Purpose without discipline is simply commotion. The world is noisy with speakers, noisy with dreamers, noisy with individuals who nearly succeeded. But the ones who break through, the ones who ascend to the peak, they are the ones who choose and organize their lives around that choice. They don't require inspiration to proceed. They don't wait for the ideal moment because they understand it doesn't exist. They construct their routine like a stronghold. They control their time like a warrior hones his weapon. And they appear repeatedly, even when nothing is occurring. Even when it feels like they're walking in darkness because they trust the system. Do you trust yourself sufficiently to persevere before you can celebrate? Can you proceed without recognition? Can you walk through the wasteland when your thirst for results is destroying you? because that is the examination, and riches only reveals itself to those who pass it. That's why appreciation isn't just some positive concept you share online. It's a tool. Appreciation is how you remain rich in spirit before the world compensates you in cash. It's how you remain stable when the tempests arrive, and they will arrive. Appreciation shifts your attention from what's absent to what's progressing. It opens your eyes to momentum, to opportunity, to the small victories you might have missed. And in the realm of riches, energy is everything. Appreciation is energy. You attract what you are, not what you wish for. When you complain, you obstruct the flow. When you envy, you contaminate your own potential. But when you exist in appreciation, you unlock a magnetism. You stop chasing and start attracting. That's not philosophy. That's physics. Energy flows where attention goes, and attention is a currency. Most individuals spend it on foolishness, on rumors, on terror, on scrolling through highlight reels of other people's lives. They waste their mental wealth every single day and then wonder why achievement feels so distant. You desire real riches? You must become rich in attention, rich in concentration, rich in mental discipline. Because riches will not reward your desires. It will reward your standards. And most individuals have low standards for themselves. They accept delay. They accept mediocrity. They accept terror disguised as logic. But every time you accept something beneath your potential, you teach your consciousness that excellence is optional. It's not. Not if you desire to construct a life that matters. Not if you desire to become someone whose name resonates beyond their time. Not if you desire to own your tomorrow. And if you do, you must become flexible, because the path to riches is not a direct line. It's a maze. It twists, it burns, it tests. And if your character is built on perfection or predictability, you'll shatter. Flexibility is the trait that separates survivors from victims. Look at history. When industries crumble, when economies shift, when old systems perish, those who prosper are the ones who pivot, not with panic, but with power. Walt Disney was dismissed for lacking creativity. Oprah was told she was unsuitable for television. Steve Jobs was dismissed from his own company, and each one of them returned stronger because their vision bent but never shattered. They adapted. They evolved. And in that evolution, they discovered greater riches than they ever imagined. You have that same capacity, but only if you stop clinging to the version of yourself that's terrified of change. Growth requires death. The death of old patterns, old beliefs, old narratives, and most of all, the death of your excuses. You don't get to keep your excuses and your riches. You have to choose. You don't get to be a victim and a visionary. You have to decide. So, who are you becoming? Because that is the question riches will ask of you. Not once, but every single day. It will ask, can you keep growing when things get difficult? Can you reinvent yourself when the plan fails? Can you become a student again when the rules of the game change? Because they will change. And you must become more than just disciplined, more than just focused. You must become resilient. Not the fake kind of resilience individuals post about online. Real resilience. The kind that bleeds, the kind that gets back up when it doesn't even remember why it started, except that something in your soul refuses to let you stop. That kind of resilience constructs riches, because that kind of resilience constructs you. Resilience isn't born in victory, it's forged in flame. When your plans crumble, your friends disappear, and your progress seems invisible. It's what appears when the world turns its back and you keep constructing anyway. When they count you out, but you count yourself in. That's the advantage. Not talent, not privilege, not luck. It's refusal. A deep, unshakable refusal to stay down. Because riches don't care how many times you fall. It only cares about how many times you get back up and learn. Learning is the currency of this new era. The prosperous are obsessed with learning. Not school, not credentials. Learning. You desire to get ahead? Study those who've accomplished what you desire to accomplish. Not casually, but like your life depends on it. Transform your vehicle into a classroom. Transform your phone into a library. Eliminate your ego. Eliminate your diversions. And feed your consciousness with weapons of thought. Because ideas are weapons. One idea can purchase your mother a house. One idea can change your bloodline forever. But you only get those ideas when your consciousness is trained, alert, focused, constantly expanding. The world will pay whatever you demand of it, but only if you become someone it cannot ignore. And that comes from learning faster than you earn. Read, listen, observe, but most of all, apply. Knowledge without action is poverty in disguise. You don't get rich by knowing. You get rich by doing what you know. There are individuals less talented than you, less educated than you, with fewer connections than you. But they're living the life you dream of. Not because they're better, because they move. They took the leap you're still debating. They made the call, launched the product, took the loss, and learned failure. That's just tuition for the prosperous. They don't fear it. They invest in it. Because every failure sharpens the blade. Every lesson becomes leverage. But most individuals, they run from failure like it's flame. They stay in the safety of average, where nothing hurts and nothing grows. You are not built for safety. You are built for significance. That's why there's a tempest in your chest when you imagine more. That's why you can't shake the feeling that you were made for something greater, because you were. But greatness has requirements, and one of them is bravery. Bravery isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's the quiet choice to keep appearing when everything inside you wants to quit. It's making the investment when you're scared. It's speaking your truth when your voice trembles. It's betting on yourself when no one else will. You think the prosperous never feel terror? They do. They just don't obey it. They use terror as a signal, a sign that they're stretching, growing, moving beyond the limits of their former selves. They feel it and move anyway. That's the code. And when you live by that code, something changes in you. You stop chasing permission. You stop negotiating with your destiny. You start commanding your life. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Because when your psychology, your patterns, your standards, your words, and your actions are in harmony, you move like a force of nature. You don't wish, you will. You don't hope, you hunt. And that's when riches finds you. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. Because the truth is, riches was never the goal. The real goal, who you become in the pursuit of it. A disciplined consciousness, a courageous heart, a soul on fire with purpose. That's the real treasure. The currency is just a byproduct, a consequence of mastery. And when you finally taste that, when you become that version of yourself, you realize that the greatest return on investment wasn't the income. It was the character. You were the asset all along. So guard your consciousness like a vault. Protect your energy like royalty. Feed your soul like your tomorrow depends on it, because it does. This situation is psychological. Always has been. Always will be. And now you understand the reality.